Hello there and welcome. I'm Ole Brøgger, and if you're new here, I really hope I'll earn your subscription today. In today's video, I'm going to build a gelatinous cube. Yes, I know I could 3D print my own and call it the day, but I think it could be more fun to build my own. I have a broken skeleton miniature here that I will use for the gelatinous cube, and I also got my bit box here with all the failed prints and small parts, and I think I can find something in here that is useful. So we better get started. First, we will have to sacrifice this little skeleton. He broke off his arm when I dropped it on the floor. And yeah, he will have to go. Fortunately, he's very easy to break apart. And let's see if we can snap off his head. Yep. And the rest of the body? Nice. The feet will be a problem, but we will just use the bones from his legs. That's okay. And these bits are actually from the Loot Studios The Undercaves. This is Loot Studios July 24 release, and these are actually from a gelatinous cube. And for these small parts, I will use the brush-on primer from the Army Painter. I also primed the ends of the break-offs on the skeleton. But I don't think I have enough bits, so I went to my scrap pile of failed prints and small bits, and I found a full skeleton. I don't know how that ended up there, but I'll paint that with the brush-on primer as well. I've also found a staff, a bow, and a sword. I am going to use speed paints in this paint job, and to give it some better highlights, I will dry brush everything with white. And then to the speed paints. I'll use different kinds of colors, but for the skeleton I will start with the palette bone. Later I will use some blood red and dry brush it with some brighter beige colors to make it look like there's still flesh on it. I will also thin down some of the paints to make them a bit brighter. We also need some metallics, and here I'm using the death metal for the Warhammer head. I think this is a pretty cool color. And some cobalt metal for whatever it is, this weapon. I think it's the head of a staff, or maybe a halberd thing or spear. A twin-edged sword. It looks magical, so cobalt metal it is. And for the rest of the metal looks, I will use this gun metal. That goes for the sword and the ring around the top of the staff. And to make every metal look a bit more worn out, I will give it a dark tone. Some ancient stone highlight for the red skeleton, just to make it less red, because I think it turned out pretty red. And now all the bits are dry, I can use this 2-component epoxy. And then I have this mold. This is actually for making a box out of epoxy, but the size is just perfect to make this gelatinous cube. This epoxy will be mixed 2:1, so I will mix 100 milliliters of the big bottle called A and 50 milliliters of the hardener in the small bottle called B. And then I will use a couple of coffee stir sticks to mix it up very good. There will be a lot of bubbles, and usually I would use my vacuum chamber to remove all the bubbles from the epoxy. But this time I think it will just turn out to be a good effect if there's a bubble or two in there. And now I will pour it into the mold. I will fill it almost to the top, and then I can start putting in all the bits. I'll just try to distribute them evenly on all 4 sides of the cube. And use a coffee stir stick to press it down to the height where I want it. The epoxy is very dense, so My hope is that it will just stay in place, but I noticed that it started to drop to the bottom. This skeleton was so thick that he was just squished down and he stayed right where I wanted him. All parts and bits are in, and I can just set it to dry overnight. This will need at least 24 hours to harden.
24 hours later.
Everything is hardened up and I can pop out this first part of the gelatinous cube, this mold. It's a silicone mold and it is very flexible, so it should be pretty easy to get it out. But I still struggled a bit until I just got a hand of it. And then it popped out. Pushed the mold back into its original shape, and now the mold is ready to use for another project. Look at this, it looks like an aquarium, and we have to do something about it. Some of the top edges are very sharp, and it is still not 100% hardened, but I think that's okay. I can squeeze it and form it a bit. But I will have to sand these edges, they are pretty sharp. I will sand down and round all edges on this gelatinous cube. I'll also use some 1000 grit sandpaper just to make everything totally smooth before we go to the next step. And the next step is to soak this thing into UV resin. This is a transparent resin. I've used it before and it smells awful, but it works. And now I'm almost at the bottom of the bottle, so I can throw things out and get some new stuff that doesn't smell as bad. But I will just start pouring it out in small portions and hit it with the UV light. Just let it flow over the edge. And there you go. It's just hardening up all instantly. And then it's just repeat this process all around the gelatinous cube until we have the look we are going for. To make sure that everything is fully cured of the UV resin, I will give it 10 minutes in my UV chamber. Gelatinous cubes. This is some nasty stuff, and I think this turned out pretty well, and it will fit perfectly into my campaign. And this was a very quick little build. It was pretty simple. It took about 24 hours for the epoxy to harden, but I think it was worth waiting for. And I got all the stuff embedded into it. If I should do this again, I would probably wait maybe an hour or two before I would put in my bits, because a lot of them fell to the bottom, and yeah, that was unfortunate, but I think this one here will work for now, and it's hollow, so we can actually take a mini and you are absorbed. And I didn't break this guy. Now he's absorbed. So let's see how he will get out of that situation. Let's have a closer look on how this turned out so you can get the good close-ups. Thank you so much for watching this video to the end. I know it was short, but we will get back to the terrain building soon. This is it for now. Thank you so much for watching. And remember to hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate that. Goodbye for now.